Hey guys, thank you for coming to this channel. I appreciate you watching this video, and you probably found this video because it's either tamale season or you just have a craving for tamales and you just want to make them. Now, in this video, I'm gonna demystify the process of making tamales. This is a pork tamale recipe. You're gonna love it, and it's gonna simplify and give you the confidence to move forward in tamale making. So we're gonna start with the meat. This is pork shoulder. That's the type of meat that goes into pork tamales. This is about 3.5 pounds. This is gonna render about 5 dozen, okay? Depending on how much you're putting in there in the fillings, but it's usually giving me 5.5.
I'm gonna add about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of salt, and about half an onion. I'm not too concerned about seasoning the meat at this point, and I know that sounds so counterintuitive, but I am seasoning the meat with the sauce. Remember, it's gonna marinate, okay? And I marinate this sauce for 24 hours, so this is a couple-day process. I do this on day 1, let it sit in the fridge for 24 hours, and the flavor just penetrates that meat, and it's fantastic. Now it's time to prepare the red chili sauce. For my recipe, I'm using about 1 pound of Guajillo chilies. I'm making more than I need, but it's okay because I'll freeze what I have left over. It's better to have more than not enough. Some people prefer to use pasilla chili, and that's okay. It's all up to you. I actually prefer a blend of both chilies. The important thing to remember here is to remove all the seeds from the dry chilies before you boil them, because if you don't, they'll cause a bitterness. You're gonna boil them for about 15 minutes or until they're completely soft. So the chilies are ready to go into the blender. Now I have a Vitamix. I'm a little bougie, but don't let that stop you, okay? All that means is that the Vitamix is going to blend it really fine. And I might have to do this a couple times because it's a nice amount of peppers. But the Vitamix does a really good job of blending, so I don't have to run it through the strainer too many times. If you've got a kind of a run-of-the-mill blender, don't beat yourself up for it. Number 1, ask Santa to bring you one for Christmas, or just use your blender and then just realize that you're going to have to run it through the strainer a little bit. Now, this broth is going to be very, very bitter, but it's okay. We need it. We need it for the recipe. Okay. I'm gonna need some. I put about 3 cups there. We're gonna see and go little by little and see how much broth or water we're gonna need. Boiling water. I didn't really need to strain my chili puree because it was really, really smooth. But if you're using a regular blender, make sure to strain it to get all the big pieces, the big chunks out of the mix. If you're using a typical blender, I do want to warn you not to blend hot items because the pressure that the heat creates will cause the lid to pop and can burn you. Now that the chili puree is fairly smooth, I add about 2 tablespoons of salt, 5 garlic cloves, and about a medium onion. Taste the sauce to make sure that it's to your liking. Remember, if the sauce is full of flavor, the meat will also be full of flavor. The Masa recipe I'm sharing makes about 2.5 dozen, so you're gonna need to double this. You're gonna have to do it twice if you're making 5 dozen. So for this recipe here, I've got 1 pound of lard. I've got Maseca. This one is the one for tamales. Now, can you use the other one that's for tortillas, corn tortillas? Yes, you can. The difference is that this one's going to be more coarse and it's going to be a more traditional texture of tamale. The other one is going to leave your tamales real smooth. Okay. Now, honestly, it's okay. Especially if you're making like a bean tamal and stuff, it's okay. It's not going to hurt. If that's all you have on hand, then get that one. But I personally like to mix these. I do half and half. So we're going to do about 5.5, maybe 6 cups of this, but 5.5 is really the recipe. We're going to do 1 pound of lard.
We're gonna put it in there and use our whisk attachment until it's like really fluffy and creamy. We're gonna use 2 teaspoons of salt. We're gonna use a teaspoon of baking powder. And we're going to use 1 32-ounce quart of chicken stock. And that is the secret right there. I said teaspoons, it's 2 tablespoons of salt. I'm gonna go ahead and add that. We're gonna put that aside. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Put that aside. Mix that up a little bit because you don't want a big old cloud of baking powder coming out of there once you start mixing. When it's fully integrated, what we're gonna start doing is adding in the Maseca. This bag here is going to give you about 5 dozen. Okay, so one bag's gonna give you about 5 dozen tamales. Put this on low. Now we're gonna add 32 ounces of chicken stock. If you don't have chicken stock, I mean, you can use water, it's fine. This is just a game changer for me. I do chicken stock.
Once the masa is fully mixed, we add 1 cup of the red chili sauce. I'm adding half a cup at a time. And I'm actually gonna remove the mixer and mix it by hand to get it fully integrated. What you're looking for is a uniform color all the way through. Now for the taste test. This is probably the most important step in my opinion, because there's really no turning back after this. I make a small patty and cook it on the hot griddle. You cook it on both sides and then cool it down and then just taste it. And this is where you get the opportunity to evaluate the flavor of your tamal. Is it too salty? Is it too bitter? These are questions that you will answer at this point in the taste test. If you're doing this by hand, just make sure that the meat is cool to touch. I'm using this fancy utensil that my sister got me on Pampered Chef. It's really cool. All you're doing here is shredding the pork and adding the sauce as needed. You want every bit of meat to be coated with sauce. It takes about 3 to 5 cups of sauce to completely cover the pork. We're going to refrigerate the meat for about 24 hours, and that's going to ensure that it is completely marinated and super tasty. It's time to soak the corn husks. You will need about 1.5 bags. Go ahead and clean and soak all of them. You will freeze the remaining husks inside a freezer bag for later use. You will have to rinse and clean all of the fibers from the husks. This may take a few rounds of rinsing, so be patient. Once they are clean, make sure that they're submerged in water completely. Since we'll be assembling these tomorrow, we can let them soak overnight. So here we are, day 2. My meat's ready. Guys, don't freak out. You're not gonna have this much meat. I made triple the recipe, okay? So that's why I have triple the meat, and I made triple the masa. So I'm making 15, 18 dozen tamales. So that's why I have more. But the meat has been marinated real well. I did rinse these a couple more times. And you're gonna use the smooth side, okay? So there's a rough side and a smooth side. I'm gonna use that smooth side. And once you get the feel of it, it's a little simpler. Like this one, I can't tell, and plus I tore it, so I'm gonna use that for something else. I'm gonna use that for a liner. Sometimes you can't tell which one's the smooth side. Just pick one and go, okay? Sometimes it's real obvious. I'm gonna take some masa here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on my countertop and work it. This masa has been in the fridge, so it is a little bit hard to work it. As it comes back down to room temperature, it'll get easier, but this is basically it. Look, that's it. Now, is it perfect? No. Does it have edges that aren't square? Yes. It's thinner here and thicker here? Yes. Now, in an ideal world, it would be just perfect, but
Tamales are not perfect, guys. Look. If I put even pressure, even then I am making it more thin here. Okay? They're not going to be perfect. That's it. Now, as far as the meat is also a little cold. That is quite a bit of meat. I'm going to take some out. Put it about right there. Okay? You want it almost in the center. This again is not rocket science, guys. There's a couple of ways that you can fold this. You can fold it like this. If your masa is coming loose off the husk, then you can probably do that. Mine's not really, it's coming off a little bit, but it's still sticky. So this is what I do. Look, fold it over. Don't worry about that flap. Fold it right back over. That's it. On the end, I'm gonna pinch a little bit. I'm gonna come over. Now on this open end, you can pinch it a little if you want. It's not going to make a big difference because look, it just comes right back apart. So this end here, you want it down. That's number one. So this one's I'm working a little bit more because the masa again is coming out of the fridge. We're going to just gauge that again. I think that's about right. Don't put it close to the bottom because it's going to just come right out, okay? You want to fold it? You can even roll it. Is it okay that I have masa here? Absolutely. It's fine. That's number two. That's two. You can even stack them up on top of each other. You can also tuck it in, roll it. We've finally reached the final stage. I like to start with a cold pot, meaning I don't turn the heat on just yet. Boiling pot is just too hot to work around. The tamales should have the open portion facing upwards and will have to cook for about 3 hours on a medium heat. A little pro tip, leave some room in the pot so that you can add some water. If you feel that it's lacking some water in a couple of hours, just add some on the side. Cover the tamales with foil because you don't want the condensation on the lid to start dripping into the tamales. This will cause them to be deformed. At about the 2.5 or 3 hour mark, pull one of the tamales out and let it cool. You will know that it's ready if it easily comes off the husk after a few minutes of cooling. And that's it. You have tamales. You did it. You made something to be proud of. Your grandmother would be so proud. I know I am. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can watch me Tex-Mex the world.